We've been talking in recent history videos about the history of the Thomas Jefferson's election as president, which really is historic. Some have called it the Second American Revolution, because it showed that the peaceful alternation of power from Federalists to Democrat Republicans, from Hamilton's supporters to Jefferson's, was possible and could happen in the United States, the crucial step for determining that this would be a democracy. But it's also important because of what it preserved, which is that Jefferson did not upend the apple cart and change everything and embark on a French revolutionary-like vendetta against people of wealth. He said instead, we're all Republicans, we're all Federalists. And that magnanimity was very important. But the election was decided in a really, really bizarre way. I've already discussed in a previous video how there was no one with a majority, and that the election had to go to the House of Representatives, where Aaron Burr, who was Jefferson's vice presidential candidate, ran against Jefferson. Back then, you didn't run separately for president or vice president. The second strongest candidate became the vice president, even though he was of another political party. And we've talked about how the House of Representatives chose Jefferson largely on the strength of Hamilton, who was Jefferson's bitter enemy, opting for Jefferson over Burr, because at least he was honest. And that led to the duel where Hamilton was killed. But there's something more interesting that happened before that. Before the ballots were actually cast, Jefferson and Adams had run against each other in 1796. And Adams had just defeated Jefferson, largely on the strength of his ability to carry New York State. And in New York State back then, the electors for president were chosen by the state legislature, not by the voters. There was no balloting for president. You'd vote for the legislators, and they would then vote for the electors, and they would then vote for president. And the Federalists had a real advantage in New York. Most of the Republican legislators were in jail. A great many of them were, because there was a tremendous banking panic. And the Federalists, who controlled the banks, they played for keeps back then, would not lend money to the Republicans. And therefore, many of them were in debtor's prison, and they had no majority in the legislature. But the other problem at the same time was that New York City was in the middle of a cholera epidemic, because it didn't have a reservoir system and the water was foul and not fit to drink. So Aaron Burr, who then was working for Jefferson before he ran against him, set up the coolest political deal in history. He went to the legislature and he said, let's vote funds for the Manhattan water system, which will be reservoirs throughout the state that'll feed water into New York. They're still there and they're still doing that. And then he said, if the authority has any money left over, it can constitute itself a bank and make loans. So the Republicans now had a bank that they could control. And they lent money to the legislators who were in jail, and they got out of jail, and they voted for Jefferson's electors. But to supervise this process, Burr created a new organization, or adopted a new one, called the Society of St. Tammany. And that became the beginning of Tammany Hall, where he worked on lining up the legislators, making sure they were loyal, getting voters to the polls to elect the legislators who would then vote Republican. And then finally, the water company had enough money to set up a bank, and that's where the Manhattan Bank was founded, now Chase Manhattan. So Chase Manhattan, Tammany Hall, the New York State water system, New York City water system, and Jefferson's election were all engineered as part of the same political deal. In the Hall of Fame of political deals, this one deserves a place. This video is sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Since the first of the year, the Dow has dropped by 4%, but gold has gone up by 4%. So take your choice as to which is the best investment. A recent survey by MSNBC of investors found that by 80 to 20, they felt that gold would go up in price. And many are now predicting that it'll go up to at least $1,400. If you want to check out all the latest news about investing in gold, go to the patriotgoldgroup.com, patriotgoldgroup.com. You can call them on the number adjacent to the screen. But on the website, they've just remodeled it. And you can get spot gold prices, market updates, predictions as to what's going on in gold and all of my videos about gold. So if you don't have enough of me, go there and you'll get more. Thanks very much for watching.